Hi guys, my name is Diana and I wanted to do a short video that I thought was pretty important about something and also kind of like summarizing yesterday's meeting a little bit. Okay, let me think. Yesterday, we watched a little bit of the show called like Love is Blind, I think it's called. It was because I wanted to show some examples of how some women behave and talk to guys and what that leads to. Because I think, the best teacher for anything is an example. If you have examples and you watch and you see and whatever, it's way better to learn from that than to be talked about how to do something. Like if you're gonna read about how to ride a bicycle versus riding a bicycle, or you're gonna read about how to have a good relationship versus seeing an example of that. It's very different. And honestly, I would really like to one day write a book about like containing only text message exchanges between the guy and the woman, that led to like marriage, like 30 or 20 or whatever of those, like because I feel like that would really help, or maybe 5 or 10. Because I think reading actual examples, and if you are someone who wants to be in a relationship, wants to be married, whatever, I think the most important thing, if you're gonna, try to get there, then you need to look at the examples, of people who actually got it and what did they do and what worked for them, and learn from that. I think is way better than if you're like reading about all this stuff, but you're not having a lot of examples necessarily. And so like one thing we talked about in regards to the rules that like I think is like kind of like my philosophy, and other people who came to the meeting as well, is really the way that I look at it, I guess, is I think it's more important about the concept and the mindset versus extreme specificity. Okay. I think like in the book, right, Not Your Mother's Rules, it says, oh, you should have your hair straight, you should wear high heels, you need to wear hoop earrings, and you can't respond between this and this time, you need to, 4 exchanges and this much. And it's like extremely like specific, right? And I think from my observations and whatever, a lot of women seem to really focus on that extreme specificity and be like, oh my God, I need to whatever, and I understand, because most of us, or all of us, I think, who come to do the rules and, really try to do effort in learning about how to date, have been really hurt, right? We're very hurt. We're, like we've been in a lot of pain and we don't want to be in pain again. So we're gonna do that. But the one thing that I've been talking to some women who are either married or engaged right now, and they may be, I found them through the rules, whatever. And one thing, so they got, the thing, I guess they got, the ring, whatever, but like one thing that I am learning by talking to them, okay, is that yes, they read the books and they had a support system and whatever, and all of that, and they learned about that philosophy and the mindset behind it. But what, like, the ones that I talked to told me that they did not do the rules completely. Okay, they didn't like, oh, like, the only reason I got married is because I did the rules exactly to the dot, and I wore hoop earrings and hair my straight, and like, no, they actually told me, they're like, I did them, but it wasn't always perfect. And then like it was like almost like the beginning was more like the rules kind of thing, and then later it became a, honestly, the one thing we talked about in the meeting, or again, it's more about the mindset being hard to get, not, going after the guy, not chasing the guy, it's more about that. And I think it's also very important that you have a support group, right? That you have a support group of other like-minded women who will encourage and cheer you on, because I think it is much more about respecting and loving yourself and not letting a guy treat you like crap, and but not being so freaking rigid and robotic that you're like, oh my god, he didn't ask me out by fourth message, I'm gonna cut him off, and I can't ask him any questions, and I can't do what, like, I think it's becoming like it's getting to like a point of crazy, honestly, that again, that's my personal philosophy, where you're like so rigid about it, but again, to me, rules and like there's other books, whatever, it's for me, it's more about that mindset, of like not messaging every single guy on dating apps, which I used to do, right? I used to be the one chasing guys, and I used to definitely get really, really depressed. I'm like, don't they like me? Why aren't they responding me? Whatever. I don't do that anymore, but again, I think it's really way more about like thinking and having a support group, because if you do, which is what we're trying to do here, that is definitely my main aim, is having a support group, so that we can support each other, because, the people that you're going to surround yourself with, it's going to really matter what kind of beliefs that you're going to have or form or start to, go towards or whatever, right? Like if, all of your friends tell you, you need to chase the guy, you need to, oh my god, you need to drive to him, you need to woody, whatever, if all your friends say that to you, then of course I think you're gonna start leaning that way. And I think it's more about having boundaries and respecting yourself and listening to your feelings, right? I was talking in a meeting, this meeting and the last meeting we had, about boundaries and how important boundaries are, right? Really, and one thing that I learned is, if you feel that, like, kind of like a yucky feeling, you feel kind of like bad, like someone said or did something, and you kind of start to feel really unhappy or upset or angry or whatever, what I've learned is that what that tends to really mean is that your boundaries were violated. Your boundaries were crossed, and, you didn't protect yourself, or you allowed that person to like walk over you or whatever, but the thing is that, when like, I don't feel good about this doesn't feel good to me, but when you have boundaries, so like one thing, somebody in the meeting was talking about how they feel like they spend a lot of time with this dating, and how like they're tired of it, how like all of their time is on like the whole dating shit, BS, whatever. and then I said to her, like, from what you're telling me, it really sounds like you have like a hard time with boundaries, because I think what like a good rule, a good kind of like idea, whatever, to have is, let's say you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to spend no more than 1 hour a day on dating stuff. So like half an hour in the morning, maybe swiping, maybe responding, whatever, and then half an hour in the evening, and then the whole day, or whatever you decide, or maybe it's 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes, in the afternoon, 20 minutes maybe that's what, you decide that's how you, but it's like you set your boundary, and then you put a timer on. And the thing is, when you do that, you tend to feel so much better, and you're like, you're taking care of yourself, and now, oh my god, I have all this time, I have all this time all of a sudden, but it's going to be way more difficult for you to do this and to really like not check your dating apps, to not respond, to not like, oh my God, this really cute guy is talking to me and I just responded and I really want to know right away if he's gonna, like, it's gonna be way harder for you to like have boundaries and to not check that if you don't have a support group, if you don't have other women. But like if you feel like, oh, I want to respond, or like maybe instead of that you go to your support group and you talk to somebody, you know, maybe that is something, and that is like a habit, right? That is developing habits, that is changing how you do stuff, right? Okay, anyway, so another thing I wanted to say, and I'm gonna end after this. So something else that we talked about during the meeting yesterday that I found very interesting as well, and like I have all these ideas, but I learn as well during all these meetings, whatever, you know, even though I'm hosting them, but I'm learning a lot from everybody who comes to meetings as well, right? But like one thing that I have definitely observed, okay, and I have no problem calling it out or saying it or whatever, is I really, really notice when Ellen and Sherry are doing their interviews and they're like talking and whatever, like if an interviewer like gives them an example of like a couple, like a celebrity couple or whatever, pretty much every time they just, oh yeah, like, you know, even though I know that that relationship wasn't really rosy in whatever aspect, they only focus on whatever that maybe was rosy that, you know, the person did. They do not focus or don't talk at all about anything that the person did that maybe wasn't really rosy. And I'm gonna give you guys an example, and also I didn't know this, but apparently both of the authors have been divorced like twice or something. I had no idea until yesterday, because they definitely don't advertise that. So like the authors themselves have been divorced and remarried and maybe divorced again. You know? I had no idea. So that was a revelation. That was really interesting, okay? And then I also learned somewhere that a lot of rules coaches are not married themselves. So that is something also really interesting, okay? But a celebrity kind of couple that both of the authors talked about at some point, and I also know their history, right, is Harry and Meghan, right? The prince and the princess, whatever, and they have what, like 3 kids now, and I think they're pretty happy together. And they really like, oh yeah, like Meghan was so rulesy. Like they talk about that, right? And I like apparently Meghan read the rules when she was in college. It's really interesting, however, that Meghan definitely was not rulesy in certain things, okay? Like, from what I know, they met at one point, like, they met, I think, in England, whatever, and then, the second time that they were meeting, Harry asked Meghan to go on, like, safari trip with him for, like, a week, okay? And she did. And that was the second time that they were meeting, and they were going to be totally alone and whatever. So that definitely is not rules, okay? That is definitely not the rules. But the authors, of course, don't talk about that, you know? So I'm just kind of pointing it out, how it's kind of biased a little bit, okay? That they only focus, and then there's another, I remember there's some really famous women that they talk about, like a hostess or whatever, and how she did not chase the man, he chased her, whatever, Harvey something, it's in the books. I know that they're divorced right now. That's like another thing I'm pointing out. But then the third thing I wanted to point out, so like the most recently in the rules group, right, the Ellen and Sherry posted about David Beckham and the Posh Spice, what's her name? I don't remember now. Like how she was super rulesy. Okay, that's what they say. Like, oh, like if you watch Netflix documentary, the Posh Spice girl, whatever her name, was like super rulesy, and that's how she got the guy. And I'm like, I saw that post. If you guys check it out, it's still there, I'm sure. When I saw that post, I'm like, oh, really? I'm curious. I'm really interested to know, you know, like, what did she do? And I'm like believing all of it, right? I'm believing it comes from Ellen and Sherry. And if you guys have watched that documentary or you are going to, you're going to be surprised, okay? I'm just saying you're going to be surprised because I was watching it last night and maybe in some ways she was rulesy, maybe, but she literally admits in that documentary that she was stalking him. Okay? She says, oh, some people said that I was going to the games to see him, and some people say that I was stalking him. Either way, either one is not the rules. Either, like, you go to see his games or you stalk him, definitely not, you know? And then there's some other stuff. Oh, right. So, like, I guess he approached her or something because, like, she was there all the time. Maybe, I don't know. And then she gave him a note with her phone number, like on a ticket or something. And that note said, call me. And then here's definitely not the rules, okay? So, like, I don't know if Ellen and Sherry watched that documentary before they made that post, but that is not the rules. The guy is supposed to ask for your phone number, okay? The guy is supposed to, not you, like, here's my number, call me, please, you know? So, why am I pointing this out? Why am I pointing this out? Again, I think number one, it's really important to look at the actual world life examples and not like fantasy and whatever, okay? Like what actually led to marriage? What actually was done? What actually did the girl do to get to that point, okay? I think it's really, really important to, like, if we're gonna succeed in having a relationship and having a marriage, whatever, you know, and I'm not saying that there aren't, you know, women who totally did the rules by the T. I'm sure there are, but, you know, these are just really interesting examples. And I was saying yesterday, I'm like, you know, I wonder if Meghan hadn't gone on that safari trip for that 1 week with Harry when he asked her to, would they have 3 kids today? Would they be married today? If she was like, oh no, I need to do the rules and the rules don't allow it, and you know what, I need to talk to Ellen and Sherry first before I make that decision if I'm gonna go. And I'm sure Ellen and Sherry would have been like, don't go, oh my God, you know, he needs to chase you. You know, I wonder, like, you know, somehow, I don't know, like, somehow I feel like the answer may be no, actually. Or if the posh spice didn't do what she did, you know, if she hadn't given him, like, her number. And again, I'm not saying that we need to, like, not do the rules or something, you know, but I think at the end of the day, it's more about that philosophy, it's more about that mindset, really. And it's more about boundaries than anything. It's more about loving yourself and taking care of yourself and having a support group, you know, and looking at actual real world examples and learning from that, you know, because if you want to, I don't know, learn to read, right? If you want to learn how to code, you know, are you going to read about it? Or are you gonna, you know, if you talk to someone who is a professional coder, who knows how to code really, really well, do you think that you can learn from that person of, like, tips and things that they did and, you know, websites and books and, you know, whatever? I'm sure you can learn a ton, and you can probably learn a lot more, like, what really worked versus maybe what's, like, step-by-step guide in a book, you know, sometimes, you know, even though I'm sure, again, there's books and whatever, but let's, you know, if you have a support group of other people who are trying to do the same thing, you're going to learn so much from each other, you know. I think that's, like, another really big thing besides feeling like someone cares about what you're doing and striving for the same goal, you know. You're also learning so much from that collective, you know, mindset, from that collective, you know, union one of people who are trying to achieve the same thing, you know. Anyway, these are my thoughts, and yeah, 20 minutes. Bye, guys.